A New Hope was released in 1977. We saw an already formed rebel alliance. Characters like Princess Leia Organa and General Dodonna seemed to have their tactics, units, and strategies together quite nicely, but we didn't see how it was formed. From what we knew, they were always that way and had been fighting as a single unit for quite some time. Then came Star Wars Rebels and Rogue One, a Star Wars story in the new canon, and we were shown that it wasn't always that way. In Rogue One, the Rebel Alliance was formed, but there were those out there still fighting on their own, and there were arguments between the leaders, such as Saw Gerrera's partisans. But Star Wars Rebels showed us a little more of how independent rebel cells were starting to join an infant rebel alliance, which already had a slightly larger presence, and leadership was establishing itself. Now we're getting something new. The Star Wars Andor series is going into a bit more detail on how that leadership came together, and it wasn't as easy as we had thought it was in 1977. In fact, Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and Star Wars Rebels made it look easy, like-minded people gravitating toward each other for a common goal, still with Saw Gerrera being on the outer fringe of it. But I digress. The Andor series shows us that it wasn't as easy as it once seemed. It's showing us it took a lot to form this rebellion. Leaders with different views of how to proceed, and oftentimes finding themselves in situations where the Empire could discover them at any moment. Mon Mothma is one such leader. Unsure of what's to come or what the future holds, Mon Mothma is the voice of dissidents in the Imperial Senate and has a bit of funding that could help grow this small band of dissenters into a force that the Empire wouldn't be able to control. But it wasn't easy by any means. So this is a character study of that rebel leader, Mon Mothma. How she became a rebel leader and the troubles she went through to get there, both personally and professionally. If you love Star Wars as much as I do, or you're just a casual fan wanting to talk about the greatest franchise ever created, then you've come to the right place, because Star Wars is all I talk about, and I upload new content, whenever I can. So if you have an interest or love for Star Wars, go on and hit that subscribe button and join this growing channel for deeper discussions, theories, and Star Wars lore. Each one of you is appreciated more than you know. To begin her story, we have to go back about 14 years to Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, I know she wasn't in the film, but she was in a deleted scene where she and other members of the Republic Senate held a secret meeting. At this point, the Clone Wars were still going on, but it was about to end. Supreme Chancellor Palpatine had been holding on to his power over the Republic much longer than his term was allowing, and these senators were looking for a way of removing him from his seat. The Clone Wars was taking its toll on the galaxy, and the small group was ready for peace. Palpatine would often put roadblocks before delegations wanting to come to a peaceful understanding between the Republic and the Separatist movement, making it hard to obtain a mutual ceasefire and resolution to the war. But Order 66 and the rebranding of the Republic made it nearly impossible to remove Palpatine within the Senate. There were just too many that agreed with now Emperor Palpatine's stance on both the Jedi and the failures of the Republic. More desperate and extreme measures would be in order. 14 years later, we get the Andor series, and we see things haven't progressed very far for the fledgling rebellion. Sure, there are pockets of resistance, but none were a big threat to Palpatine's empire. But there was one senator highlighted in the series who wasn't giving up hope: Mon Mothma. Coming from a wealthy Chandrilan family, Mon Mothma had a bit of funding stashed away that could help grow smaller groups into something a bit larger. Now, she didn't have the funding to back the entire formation, but she did have enough to help with some of the missions, and most of that funding came from her family's account. At this time, the Emperor and his Imperial Security Bureau had taken notice to the rebel activity and questioned where the funding was coming from. So those with the means to support resistance were being scrutinized. One way of doing this was by auditing bank accounts, and this was about to expose Mon Mothma. Most of her account was in order and easy to reconcile. However, there was a withdrawal in the tune of 400,000 credits that was unaccounted for, and she was struggling to get the funds back into the account without making it obvious that she had been hiding something. Mon Mothma's family and professional lives weren't going so well either. She didn't trust her husband, and her teenage daughter was being, well, a teenager. From what we were shown in the beginning, it wasn't past her husband to throw lavish parties while inviting those Mon Mothma wasn't on the friendliest of terms with in the Senate. It would appear that he was closer to them than he should be, but it may be a case of Perrin Fartha just enjoying a party and he didn't care who was there. At least that's how it appears on the surface. And her daughter seemed to side with Mon Mothma's husband more than her. This is often the case when one parent comes off as the cool parent, while the other is more of the rule maker and disciplinarian. But there was something in Perrin's past that seeded the deeper resentment Mon Mothma had for him. While this is all going on, Mon Mothma was shown to have an even fuller plate than just family troubles, disagreements with opposing senators, and an unbalanced checkbook. She had also been working with the rebel coordinator, Luthen Rael. Luthen was putting together the missions for the small rebel factions, but he needed funding to do so. Funding that went beyond his own means. It isn't shown whether Luthen was using his own funds gained from his cover-up antiques dealings, but we know Mon Mothma was funding money to him to help out as well. Doing her part to help rid the galaxy of tyranny, when she expressed to Luthen that it was becoming dangerous for her, he reminds her that he has many mouths to feed, and they can only forage for so long. She assures him that the money is there, but it's getting harder to move it around. She wants to bring someone into the circle that could help her. But against Luthen's disapproval, she enlists the help of Tay Kolma, a banker with the know-how to get out of these sticky situations, and he wasn't a friend of the Empire either. However, his solution is one that would put a bad taste in her mouth. Tay Kolma introduces Mon Mothma to Davo Skulden, a shady person who comes off as more of someone of organized crime than a legitimate businessman. But he agrees to help Mon Mothma return the missing 400,000 credits and cover up where it came from. He only asks for one thing in return: the introduction of his teenage son to Mon Mothma's own daughter. He promises this is not a betrothment, but it's understood that it absolutely is more than just a mere meeting. It's more in tune with tying their families together, something that will help make him seem more legitimate in the eyes of the Empire, and an assurance that if he goes down for this, so will Mon Mothma and her family. Although those things aren't outwardly spoken, what other reason would he have for wanting his son to be connected to someone of such high stature? It's an insurance plan. This puts Mon Mothma in an awful predicament. She now has to choose whether to be exposed by the Empire or give up her daughter to a gangster. In the meantime, Mon Mothma comes up with another solution for the missing funds. She asks her driver for privacy in her car while she talks to her husband. Then it comes out. Mon Mothma accuses her husband, Perrin, of relapsing into his old ways of gambling addiction, knowing well that she's being listened to by her driver. If he is the Imperial informant she believes he is, then this would cover for the discrepancy in her banking. And she was right. She was being monitored. The driver then relays this message to the Imperial Security Bureau, and it's confirmed that Mon Mothma has been on their radar as a person of interest. But this will explain that transaction. Then, Mon Mothma does the unthinkable. In her last scene of Season 1 of the Andor series, Mon Mothma is seen with her husband and daughter walking through their estate. A door slides open, and there stands Davo Skulden and his son. Mon Mothma is going ahead with the introduction. How could this be? Why would she do this? Her transaction has already been explained away by falsely accusing Perrin of taking the money for gambling. Why does she proceed with the meeting? Because for Mon Mothma and her family, the troubles with the Empire are just beginning. She will still need to move large sums of money around, and this meeting ensures Davo will be there for future needs of cover-up. And this may be pure speculation, but if Mon Mothma were discovered, her family wouldn't be safe. Giving her the chance to escape the household also gives her a greater chance for survival. Mon Mothma may be involved with funding a rebellion, but it's obvious that she has no experience with dealing with the underworld. And who better to hide her daughter than someone with that experience, should there be trouble? And Davo Skulden will hide her, as it would also bring trouble for him and his family, or maybe he will offer her up as a sacrifice. We'll see. Mon Mothma has been a leading figure in the Rebel Alliance for the earliest of Star Wars stories. Starting all the way back in Return of the Jedi, she's made cameos in almost every other era of the Star Wars franchise since then, but her character was always limited to short interactions and plots. Now, in the Andor series, we get more development of her character than we thought we ever needed, but it's apparent we need it. Mon Mothma is a badass. With balancing her commitment to the fledgling rebellion and her family, Mon Mothma is doing everything she can to preserve both, all while trying not to be exposed. Her tactics against her husband's gambling addiction proved helpful, but this excuse would only last for so long. In another video, I claimed Mon Mothma was ruthless and throwing her husband and child under the bus for her own illegal action. But that was meant more tongue-in-cheek than based in reality. No, the reality is that although a gambling addiction is frowned upon, it is something families have to deal with on their own, and the Empire wouldn't waste their time with a domestic dispute. Although it's implied that they can use it to silence her support in the Senate. A minor setback for Mon Mothma, as it seems she doesn't have many supporters anyway. Her reputation will be slightly tarnished professionally, but she and her husband are still safe. They may be in a loveless relationship, but she could have made much worse implications against him, such as trying to pin him for taking the funds to fund the rebellion himself. It's obvious she doesn't want him imprisoned nor killed. They may have their differences in a rocky relationship, but she respects his right to freedom and life. The same goes for her daughter. Leida wasn't introduced to Sculdun's family to help Mon Mothma's current situation. She was offered up for Leida's protection. In turn, she can move funds around a little bit easier, and she can help the galaxy as a whole. Mon Mothma understands that her dissidence within the Senate will only last for so long. As with Luthen Rael's cover-up of being an antique dealer, her cover-up is the Senate. She's just a bit more outspoken against the current oppressive regime, but she understands her support is all but extinct. But that leaves the question, where is Bail Organa during all of this? I'm sure we'll find out eventually. Mon Mothma is just one of the characters who have been brilliantly written and acted in the Andor series, making the Star Wars Andor series some of the best Star Wars to come out since, well, you can fill in the blank with that on your feelings. Next up, I will be doing a character analysis of Luthen Rael. Following that will be Dedra Meero, the ISB agent bent on finding the rebel known only as Axis. So make sure you're subscribed to keep up with all I am doing here. This is Gerald, a Star Wars fanatic, signing off, wishing you all great health, happiness, and peace. Be good to each other. Thank you all for watching, and remember, this is the way. And positivity in the Star Wars community is the only way.